magic, I tell you. All right, we got a full house. Might get fuller here in a little bit. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Are you ready, Alpha Geek Radio?
I've been ready. I'm ready.
Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt is powered by Patreons like you. From 5 cents to $50, every contribution helps Tom and company produce fresh episodes of essential tech news. To learn more and support the show, visit patreon.com/acedetect. And thanks for listening.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, September 19th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Eck from Hockey Buzz. Eklund's here with his brand new iPhone 6s. I think he's got one, but his wife got one as well. Interesting story to go along with that we'll talk about later. Eh?
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm in a lot of trouble, put it that way.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Also joining us, Len Peralta here to illustrate the episode. Len, you didn't get an iPhone 6, did you?
I did not get an iPhone 6. I don't know. I still like the 5, and I'm not ready to get that large of a phone.
All right. I haven't got one either, but Patrick Beja did, and we've invited him to pop in later on, so hopefully he'll jump in and give us the French perspective on the iPhone 6. But let's start with some headlines. With Apple getting some good response to their privacy subsite yesterday, it shouldn't be a big surprise that Google would want some attention too. Google spokeswoman Nikki Kristoff told the Washington Post that not only has Google offered on-device encryption for more than 3 years, but starting with the next Android release, encryption will be enabled by default on Android devices. Meanwhile, BlackBerry stands in the corner, arms crossed, pointing at itself, going, hey, we've been doing this forever.
But doing so politely because it is Canadian after all.
Right. They're going, we've been doing this forever. But please,
when you get
it's
around
okay.
to it.
Sorry. The Right Post mentions Google Dropbox and others are supporting a new project called Simply Secure to improve the usability of open source privacy tools. The organization's advisors will include Cory Doctorow, Ian Goldberg, and Google's Ben Laurie. The idea is to bring open source developers together with usability experts to solve problems and make apps easier to use. This is a lot. There's a lot of efforts like this going on, but this is interesting to say, hey, let's get some UX guys in here, because that's the one thing that open source folks often just don't have time for. It's not that they're bad at it. It's just that they're pressed for time. I think this is great.
I think it's great too. I don't know if it's time so much as they just don't care about it. The people I know with open source, they just want the simplest interface there is possible. So
yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to say is they're like, look, this does what I need to do. I've got code to crunch. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Exactly. And there's guys that will spend the time on it. It's great. Bloomberg reports that Chinese e-commerce site Alibaba had a successful debut on the New York Stock Exchange today, raising $21.8 billion in its initial public offering. The IPO was priced at $68, but closed for the day at $93.89 per share. Company's now valued at $231 billion, which makes it worth more than Amazon.com and eBay, and more valuable than all but 9 companies in the S&P 500.
Scares the heck out of me to order from it, though. Have you ever gone to it and tried to order anything from it? It's just, I don't know why. It's amazing to me the amount of people that have faith in it. It looks shady. It's just the way it acts. It's very, but yet it's doing unbelievably well.
Yeah, they are not positioned for the U.S. market or the North American market even. But in the Chinese market, man, they have it locked up. Well, I shouldn't say they have it locked up. They're in some stiff competition with Tencent, but they are a powerhouse. And they are, people describe them differently depending on who you're asking. Some people say, oh, they're the eBay of China. Oh, they're the Amazon of China. Now they're starting to become the everything of China. So it is really interesting to see them on the New York Stock Exchange, too. And an IPO that went up, not one that went down from the initial public offering.
Amazing.
Ars Technica reports that Apple released iCloud Drive yesterday as part of the iOS update, but OS X Mavericks does not support the new Apple Cloud platform, which means Mac users should wait until OS X Yosemite is released later this fall before activating it, especially if they've got apps that sync across these platforms. However, Apple did release an updated version of iCloud for Windows, which has full support for iCloud Drive, which means Windows users with iPhones have the advantage over the Apple users who didn't opt into the Yosemite beta. Of course, iCloud for Windows still can't use iCloud Keychain to sync passwords or use the Find My Device app, so don't get too excited. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I mean it's awesome for the many Windows people that I know, and will they be too good for this? Will they go, we're not going to listen to that. I'm not going to take that.
Yeah. Linux users, you can stop your whining or any of the other workarounds you've been using to make Netflix work on your Linux machine. Like Wine being the emulator. The Muct passes along that Netflix software engineer Paul Adolph remarked on the Ubuntu developer mailing list that Netflix would be able to play video in Chrome on Ubuntu if NSS version 3.16.2 or greater is installed, to which Ubuntu security engineer Mark Delorier responded he plans to update Ubuntu with those very libraries, and he might look at it as early as next week. So finally, Netflix coming to Linux, native. No workaround necessary. How many people do you think are going to be sad because they're like, but I have a really good workaround?
Oh yeah, I can watch it on every TV at the same time, and my neighbor's TV too. So yeah.
Yeah. Ars Technica reports that a developer called Vladikov has taken Google's app runtime for Chrome, which originally allowed certain Android apps, I think it was about 4 apps, to run in Chrome OS, and not only made it run all Android apps, but made it work in the Chrome browser as well. Vladikov's custom version called Archon, A-R-C-H-O-N, can be sideloaded into Chrome 37, and then he gives you something called Chrome OS-APK, which can convert Android APKs into Chrome extensions, and voila, you have Android apps running on Windows, OS X, or Linux, just running in the Chrome browser.
That's the best thing that's happened to Windows in a while. That'll be good.
Yeah, you could do BlueStacks or something like that previously, but this is pretty nifty. Good job, Vladikov. Time for some news from you. These are things submitted on our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We get all kinds of stuff, several things that were in the headlines already today were on that subreddit, but we like to call out a few of them that get some interesting votes that maybe not as buzzworthy in other places you look on the internet. Captain Kipter posted the Ars Technica story that MPHJ Technologies has lost its lawsuit against the US FTC. MPHJ was sending small business letters requesting $1,000 per worker for using scan-to-email functions. If you had a freaking copy machine, essentially, you were getting these letters. That caused attorneys general in Vermont and Nebraska to sue MPHG. So MPHG decided to sue the FTC, which said it was threatening to violate its right to free speech because the FTC was going to investigate it. That speech, I guess, would be the ability to threaten small businesses. However, on Tuesday, U.S. District Court Judge Walter Smith dismissed the case since the FCC hadn't actually done anything. MPHJ is still fighting the attorneys general. It's doing actually well in Nebraska, but not so hot in Vermont. TM204 passes along the news that the U.S. Senate is considering limits on U.S. law enforcement access to emails stored abroad. We'll see if this is good news for Microsoft. Network World reports that the bill would allow the use of search warrants outside the U.S. only in relation to U.S. citizens or companies. The bill would also allow courts the power to modify or deny the warrant request if it forces a company to violate the laws of a foreign country. Whether or not this would help Microsoft in its quarrel with the federal government about access to emails stored in Dublin is not clear.
It's interesting how we have this worldwide web and these local laws, and we run into situations, especially in this kind of case. Yeah, I'm glad Microsoft is sticking to its guns.
Yeah, this is an interesting rule that says yes, you can go after U.S. citizens abroad because that's still a problem for some situations. But what the NSA and others tend to want to do is go after non-U.S. citizens and only catch U.S. citizens in the pursuit of those non-U.S. citizens. That's what they're usually authorized to do. Right. So this would stop them from being able to do that unless they get a warrant in the countries in which those emails are stored. Metal Freak pointed out an eSecurityPlanet.com post indicating a Swiss website called Ciphershed.org claims to be the home of a project taking the TrueCrypt code forward and turning it into a new application. Josh Dokerbiter, the initiator of the project, said Ciphershed will be released under an open source license, but which one has not been decided yet. The intent is to make a faster, more secure product that can work under newer operating systems like Windows 8, but still be backwards compatible and open older TrueCrypt containers. So hope for the TrueCrypt future. And Captain Kipper has news from The Verge that should help some very concerned people on Twitter to worry less about my photos. I was using Tweetbot on my recent trip to post a few pics, and the version of Tweetbot that I use happens to use TwitPic to upload pics, and a bunch of people were warning me I was flirting with disaster and should stop immediately because TwitPic had announced it was shutting down, and how dare you use TwitPic to still post a picture. Good news, everyone! TwitPic posted on Twitter today that it has been acquired and will live on. Crisis averted.
And yet many people are already, buying apps that make their pictures go away immediately, so you could have been happy about this.
Yeah, maybe I was doing it intentionally. It's like an extended Snapchat. Now I'm upset. Oh, you mean they're going to stick around? Crap. I was hoping they'd go out of business. And that's a look at the headlines. I know I've been telling you about this all week, but for anybody who missed it or hasn't checked it out yet, I wrote a novella called Events of a Different Nature. Len Peralta illustrated the cover. So it's worth checking out for that alone, even if you don't care about the story.
That's a great recommendation, Tom.
Yeah. You judge this book by its cover, will you? TomMerrittBooks.com. It's about crime and private investigators and special agents. I was just looking at a passage that takes place in Switzerland where Greta passes out from her injuries. And Django has to drag Greta out of the cottage into the cold air to revive her. I mean, it's full of that kind of adventure. So there's a free version.
Pee-wee.
That's right. There's a free version as a PDF, as well as versions for all the ebook platforms and a print version at TomMerrittBooks.com.
It's got an 80s feel to it, Tom. Like the cover, especially. Cover's got to me, it has like an 80s feel, like you'd expect. The theme to Footloose playing in the background somehow with these dogs as they pursue people.
Best enjoyed with the soundtrack to Footloose playing
Absolutely.
In the background. Can I get you to blurb that? I'll throw that on the back of the. Yeah, that'd be great. All right. Well, it is iPhone 6 Day, so those of you who don't care about the iPhone can probably tune out now. But Eck, you pre-ordered one, which arrived, right? That was an iPhone 6 Plus?
Yes, the one I pre-ordered, which is this one, did indeed arrive in my home. I confronted the mailman. I had a drop cam set up to watch for him because couldn't actually sign it here because we had people working on the outside of the house and I didn't think it would last the day, so I had to stay there. But yep, it did arrive. I also went this morning because my wife said I really want one too, and she's actually been the iPhone user the whole time. I haven't been on the iPhone since the 3GS, but I was on all of them before that, the day they came out. But I went this morning to Best Buy and tried to get her one, and the problem was that Best Buy had no 6 Pluses at all. And so as I was walking, but they didn't tell us that until we got to the front, which was nice of them. So spent about an hour and a half outside and walked up. And what's really interesting, I thought, of just hearing the stories of, Target has more of them, and this place has more, and there's this whole network that's going on. It's hilarious. Just the people are just moving and grooving on it.
Yeah, I stopped by the local Best Buy over here on Pico Boulevard and I counted. There were 21 people in line at about 11:15 a.m. So I imagine it had been longer. And as I was walking through, I heard one guy go, "Why is this line not moving?" But I went there because I saw you posted that you were at Best Buy, and I thought, well, I should go check out the Best Buy because it's not that far. I can just jump over there real quick. Patrick Beja has also joined us here as well. Patrick, did yours arrive by post? Oh, I can't hear you, Patrick. I don't know. You seem to be muted somehow. But I assume that your iPhone did arrive by post, but I don't know. Maybe you went to the store to get it. I still can't hear you, though. Can you hear him, Mac?
I can't hear him.
We can make up a voice for him.
We can hear Len. Patrick, just yell and scream once you...
Perhaps you could mime your experience.
Once you've checked your settings and seen if your audio works. But, Eck, while we figure out Patrick, you said, and we alluded this at the top of the show, that setting up your iPhone messed up your wife's phone. How did that work?
Right. Well, here's the thing. I ordered after I ran out of the options there. I said, okay, I'll order you one on the Apple Store. So I ordered her one with her phone number, and the one that came somehow, and I do not know how, I guess was on her phone number. I took my SIM out of another thing because I took my SIM out of my Nokia phone and I just put it in here thinking that would be fine. But there's something that's not fine about that because what happened immediately, I realized I was getting all of her text messages and my text messages. So then I thought, okay, maybe we're linked somehow in iMessage, right? So I turned off iMessage, and so then I wasn't getting her text anymore. But then I called her and went right through voicemail, and I'm like, I'm screwed. My wife's phone never goes right to voicemail, and she's a wonderful lady indeed, but she's not happy when she doesn't have her phone functioning properly. So yeah, panic ensued. And then for a while, the whole thing about I hate technology, and then why do you get these new things, right? And yeah, it was a pleasant experience, and still to this point we haven't, until she gets home, when I'm going to take the SIM that was in my phone when they sent it to me and try to put it in her phone and see if that fixes it, which might. I don't have any other ideas. I mean, right now.
So wait, you took the SIM out of whose phone?
I took a SIM out of my Lumia that I was using.
Okay. So
and
theoretically,
I cut it down. I have a SIM cutter and everything. I cut it down.
And you bought an unlocked iPhone?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So I bought it completely outright. Right? So I thought that would be fine, and putting the SIM in there I thought would be no problem. And I did get the little message as I was going through. You're linked to iMessage. Are you okay with these people FaceTiming you? And her number came up, and I'm like, okay, sure. But somehow I can't do iMessage. It's both of our. So she was getting my text. I was getting her text. Neither of us could text each other, and then her phone just stopped working altogether.
I imagine that somebody out there in the telecom industry is like, oh, I know what happened, and they could email us and explain it. But yes, that's the way it's supposed to work, right? If you've got an unlocked phone, and I assume the Lumia was unlocked as well, right?
Lumia was unlocked as well, yeah. And so I just went from one to the other. I mean, different size SIMs, but I cut the SIM, and I have like a special SIM cutter that from back in when I think I learned from maybe Ayaz taught me how to cut a SIM way back when. And so I was all set, so I went from, this Lumia, basically to this iPhone, and that gives you a perspective of the size too, because the Lumia is not a small phone.
Patrick Beja is now audible.
You told me to yell, so I did. Sorry.
So a little bit of a setup snafu for Eck, but at least his 6 Plus is working. How did your acquisition of an iPhone go?
The acquisition went super well. I was expecting to wait until late in the evening to get my phone, and of course the guy arrived at 9 in the morning, so I have been playing with it for about, 10 hours now, 11 hours. So yeah, it went super well. And I decided to do the daring thing of not porting over my old saves and just start from scratch. So it has been a 10-hour journey. But I have to say my first impression, I don't know how much you've talked about this specifically, but it really does feel kind of big. And I got the 6, not the 6 Plus. I've always resisted getting bigger phones or at least, getting Androids that people were telling me were cool, but even though I thought they were big, and bear in mind there are going to be a lot of that's what she said jokes opportunities in this, so I'm just going to acknowledge it now and just not mention it again. And I always felt they were too big, and here unfortunately it feels like that too. I was kind of hoping that I would see the revelation, and it might still happen. It's only been 10 hours, and everyone's telling me after 2 weeks you won't want to go back to the smaller one, which I believe, but I didn't expect it to feel as big as it is. And there's also so many apps on the home screen. Bear in mind I'm coming from a 4S, and I did use occasionally a 5, but it feels a little bit crammed, packed. So I guess that these are the two somewhat negative things. I don't know if you want to go into them.
Yeah. I want you guys to compare your various first impressions. Nick sent us an email, and he mentioned size in particular, saying that he felt that the size was great even for one-handed use, but he points out it's a personal thing. It depends on who you are, and I think Android users can attest to that. They've been dealing with multiple sizes from the Note on down for a long time. It just depends on what you're used to and what you get used to and what you want to use it for.
Yeah. Well, it definitely. I have really big hands, and so this is the 4S for those who can see the video. Here is my hand.
It looks like a chiclet.
Exactly. And even then, it's impossible for me to use the 6 one-handed.
He's not bragging, folks. He really does have large hands.
And you know what that means. And so I guess these are the somewhat negative things. The cool things, I'll gloss over the 4G, which I didn't have before, it's cool. The 240 image per second slow-mo is surprisingly cool. I don't know if you've tried it yet.
I haven't tried it yet. No, I'm looking forward to it. We have a soccer game this weekend, and I want to try it with my kids, definitely.
Catch the exact right moment.
Yeah.
120 was fun. This has a kind of a little bit of a wow effect, so I can imagine we're going to see a little bit more cool things happening with that. But the things that really I put in my notes delighted me. The things that were actually delightful really have not much to do with the 6. It's all about Siri voice recognition. It's not really Siri, but the dictation really works now. It's been a very long time coming, but now it actually really works. It's as good, if not better, than Google's. It's instantaneous. So that's really I already used it from time to time, and now I think I'm going to be using it a lot. The Touch ID is also delightful. Again, I'm coming from the 4S, so I haven't been using it with the 5, but a lot of the 5S. But a lot of people have been telling me that it worked maybe 80% of the time at the beginning, which was good, but not really good. And here it works 97.5% of the time. It just works. You don't think about it. And the last thing that still has nothing to do with the 6, I guess, is SwiftKey, which it's the one thing that Android users have been telling me, custom keyboards are really cool, and I was sort of not dismissing it, but thinking,
I love SwiftKey on my Nexus 7, and I was so excited to finally get it on a freaking iPhone.
And this is the thing that I would say everyone who has iOS 8 just install it right now. It is the best feature about iOS, and of course Android users have been using it for a long time. But overall, I like the 6. It's just that all of the features that I really like don't really have much to do with the phone itself. It's a good upgrade, but it's an iPhone. It's not anything surprising, I would think.
Now, I know you started from scratch. Nick, in his email to us, said the one thing he feels is that it's faster than his 5S, but he wishes it had allowed him to transfer over his Touch ID settings and his health settings. He understands that that's because of privacy that they don't do that. Ek, how was your setup? Did you go from scratch, or did you move things over?
Yeah, I started from scratch too. I mean, most of my iOS experiences have been iPads since the 3GS. So I didn't really want my iPad's a totally different setup for me, different apps and stuff like that. So to me, I thought I would start from scratch. I agree with you with SwiftKey though. That's fantastic, and I also agree with Patrick on the voice recognition. I've been playing around with between the Galaxy S5 and Nokia has a really good voice recognition as well on the Windows phones. But this one is exceptional. The voice recognition is definitely, and it's exceptional in the way that it actually listens to you and then figures out what you're saying and goes back and corrects things as you're going along, which is really kind of fun to watch. It'll change there to there, they are to there. It's making little corrections, which they all do, but this does it extremely fast. And that's a really nice feature. It is big. I mean, it's definitely big. I made the choice on going with a bigger phone because of what I do in the press, and I thought I could maybe get away with just bringing this to cover games. When I'm covering hockey games, I've been usually bringing a phone and an iPad, and I thought maybe I could just get away with this, and I think I will probably be able to do that, which I kind of like. So, but I don't know that I would recommend it for everybody. I think it's a little too big. I definitely, looking at both of them, I agreed with what Molly Wood said yesterday, actually, which is that the one felt too big and the one felt too small. It really did feel that way to me.
The 6 feels too small to you?
Maybe just because I'm coming from a Lumia or a bigger phone, and it felt when I was holding both of them in the store, the 6 felt like the 5, my wife's 5. It felt like that. It didn't feel any bigger at all, and maybe I was just expecting it to be bigger.
Well, that's what Nick was saying. It's all a personal thing. It's from what your expectations have been, and I think you guys are examples of it, coming at it from an iPhone 4S user, I guess.
Yeah.
And a bigger phone user, like a non-iPhone large phone user. It's just going to feel different.
It feels like the Note 2. It reminds me of the Note 2 the most of any phone I've had. That definitely, it does have that feeling in the Note 2, except it's way smoother and the screen is way better. But besides that, it has that feel that I originally got with the Note 2. And I'm kind of used to the flip-flop thing like the Samsungs have. They all come with these covers now that go on top of them. I got used to that too, and it feels like the phone this size, you should have something like that on it, or else it does feel like you could flip pancakes with it really easily because it's so thin.
iFixit did a teardown, and that thing is mostly battery. If you watch the teardown, aside from discovering it had a gig of RAM, their big discovery was it's a 2,915 milliamp hour battery in the Plus. Patrick, you've been using it for more than 12 hours now. How's the battery life?
Well, it's always difficult to judge because I've actually been using it for almost all of those 10 hours, like fixing stuff and installing stuff and getting apps signed back in and all of that. It did definitely burn through the battery with actual active use for multiple hours. I came from a 4S, which is 3 years old now, maybe a little bit more, and I had to charge my 4S midway through the day, and so even though I wasn't using it a lot, but this one, when I was using it a lot, it was sort of the same scenario, but it's really not fair because of course the battery is going to burn down. Now I haven't been using it so much in the past couple of hours, and it's going okay, but let's put it like that. It's not the miraculous battery that I was kind of half hoping for. It's still a phone, and I guess it's going to last you the day, well into the night probably, but it's not a significant improvement for battery life.
You got to have a bigger battery to power that bigger screen. Jack Cooksey was the first person to get an iPhone 6. He didn't get a 6 Plus. He got a 6 at Perth, Australia. And then when he was talking to the TV reporter right outside the store, as he opened the box, it fell out and dropped on the ground, which has become a hit video now across the internet.
Did it break, or?
No, apparently it was fine. At least that's what everybody said, although I didn't see it actually turn on in the video, so I don't know. Daryl Etherington was saying that the lines seem longer than they have been the last couple iPhones. Why do you all think this iPhone, which really is just a bigger screen, and there's Apple Pay coming, obviously.
Not for us.
Well, not in all regions. Why do you think this one is exciting people more?
I think it might be I think the watch may have something to do with it, honestly, even though it's a ways off. I mean, people who don't have an iPhone, that was my decision. That was why I went back to it, just because I did want to try the watch, and I couldn't otherwise. And so I thought, why not try it? I think that sort of is helping. I also think that, the big phone thing, Apple in their typical style let somebody else do the big phone thing first, and now they've come in, so it's not so obnoxious as it would have been if they had done it before. One of the weird things about setting up, though, I forgot about this on the bigger phone. I don't know if yours did this or not, Patrick, but you get you get to make a decision at one point whether you want the icons to be bigger or smaller. Yeah. There's this screen where you get, you can zoom it in or zoom them out. And I just wonder why not have more. I guess you just can't. I guess it doesn't scale properly. But I'd rather have more icons smaller than just bigger or smaller icons.
Oh, see, I wouldn't. There are too many on that screen already. And I understand it's the same as the iPhone 5, I suppose. Let me check. But it feels already like there's too many of them. Getting back to the question about the excitement there's one extra row compared to the iPhone 5. That's why it feels like there's so many of them. But about the excitement, I think I have a different explanation from you. I don't think the watch has a lot to do with it. People are still a little bit uncertain about that. With reason, but I think a lot of people, when the iPhones first came out, were buying one almost every year. It was basically renewing your phone because it's like old PCs. You had to get the new one because you were just running more powerful stuff on it. And then the iPhone 4 and 4S came out, and people started going, all right, you know what? Maybe I don't need a phone right now. Maybe I don't need to buy the latest one immediately. And they saw the 5. It was cool, but it was an elongated 4. And then the 5S, a lot of people were like, yeah, it's the same as the 5. I'll just wait for the next, the real next new one. So I think there's a significant amount of people who stop at the 4S or even the 4 and who are like, all right, now, I really like the iPhone. I like the ecosystem. I'm not really interested by Android. now it's a phone that actually has enough to convince me to buy it, and that's why you have a little bit more excitement surrounding this phone, when really, when you look at the 5S, it doesn't have a huge amount of extra features. That's the way I explain it, at least. I don't know if it's valid, but that's how I see it.
I think that's probably fair. I think that's a probably good analysis of it. How long are we? As I was sitting in line, and I sat in line for the first iPhone and a couple others and a couple of iPads and things like that, I thought to myself, how long are we going to be doing this? Like, how long is this going to be something that we do? And I mean, will we tell our kids? Yeah, there was like a decade there or so when we always sat in line for the latest phone, and would that be the equivalent of us telling them, like, of our parents saying, yeah, we got a rotary phone every year because they were new and great? I just wonder what time a phone just becomes a phone, and they're doing a great job at not letting that happen, I have to admit. But at some point, as I was sitting there, I'm like, it feels like this is something that my kids will laugh about, that we did this. I don't know why.
I would have thought this was the time it fizzled out, but I think the screen size did it. And Patrick, I think you may be onto it, where we could look at it and go, okay, I've been waiting for something new to happen with the iPhone since maybe the 4, even in some cases, and now it's new, it's bigger, and maybe this is the last great hurrah. I don't know.
I think about the excitement, I think it might have something to do with our generation, with the kids not being so interested, because they were, when I say the kids, the iPhone, the new smartphones came about 8 years ago. So kids that were, let's say, 10 or so have grown up with it, and they don't really care. But for us, there is still this residual excitement of how incredible this new thing was, this really revolutionary device. And if you tack on the Steve Jobs reality distortion field, I think it's still in us. We sort of still want to relive this excitement of having these smartphones that were clunky and annoying and that didn't really fulfill the promises that were made to us, and shifting to that vision of a future that we were hoping for. So I think there might be a little bit of that still in us. We might keep doing it. I don't really do it all that much, but we might still do it for a long time for us. The younger people don't really care, I suppose.
Well, I think that's true, because my daughter's 13, and I got her a 5C last year, and she just came home one day and, Dad, would you mind getting me an iPhone 5C at some point? I'd like that. It wasn't like it was just like picking up toilet paper. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go get you the iPhone 5C at some point. It was really like completely. I mean, and I think you're right, because there was that initial, like, when you first got the first iPhone and you came back with we all had that feeling of like, wow, I'm holding something here that is totally going to stay in my hands for the next 10 years. I'm not going to let go of this thing. I'm going to have it around me. And before that, because that was the other thing I was thinking about today in line, I couldn't help but laugh, because everybody there is looking at their iPhones or iPads. And what did we do when we waited in line for the first iPhone, I thought? Like, what did we do then? Because now we can do this now. And it was just kind of fascinating to me to think about that. I think you're right. I think there's still this awe. We just really want to be awed. We just want that whole thing of, like, to be blown away.
I think there's a certain amount of people want to recapture that feeling of that first iPhone, and so they keep going back. You're right. That is part of the momentum that happens here.
And it does to an extent. There is something to. I know a lot of people joke about, oh, look at those losers going in line for 8 hours to buy a phone. It's not about buying the phone. Well, maybe it is a little bit about buying the phone, but it's really about the feeling of communion and community and being with people. And for all the talk about how the internet separates us, and a lot of people who don't use the internet say that, I think for people like us, it brings us really closer together and brings us closer to people that we would never have been close to. The case in point, this show and its community. And when you go to a thing like that, it's a way of having, community contact, and it's about the experience more than it is about getting the phone. So that also plays a role, I think.
Case in point, when I waited out in line for the iPad, I met this woman and her son, and I waited a long time for the iPad. I was out in line, and we talked forever. I never would have met these people ever in any other situation. 3 years later, I was walking through the mall, and I came across them. And it was as if, I had spent this 3 intense hours with them at one point. I know these people so well, but I have no idea. And it took me forever until I got home later that night to say, wait a second, That's the iPad people. But you're right. You make these connections, and you end up seeing all these people who work at home. A lot of people who are in line today were people who work at home.
It's a celebratory feel that happens among the people who are willing to do that, and that's part of it too. Well, Patrick, thanks for jumping in and chatting with us. If you need to hop out whenever you want.
I was just jumping in for a second. Thank you so much for having me for this little tirade about the iPhone, and have a good rest of the show.
No, it's fantastic. Thanks, man. Appreciate you sharing your insights with us.
No problem. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Talk to you soon. Taking a look at the calendar, September 20th through the 21st is Maker Faire in Corona, New York, otherwise known as Queens. September 20th through the 21st is also DroidCon New York, in which all things Android will be discussed. And September 21st through the 22nd is the Health 2.0 conference about healthcare technology. I'm sure HealthKit will be discussed at least in the hallways at that. Our pick of the day is mine today, and given the earlier story about security, I'm going to pick Spider Oak. Now, I use Dropbox, and Dropbox is very convenient, and they just up their storage amount, so that's great. But I don't really want to use Dropbox for secure things. If I have something I want to lock down, not going to be my pick. Spider Oak has a privacy policy that I can hang on to. It's got good encryption. It's 2 gigabytes free for life, $10 a month for 100 gigabytes. But really, the thing you want to look at is their zero knowledge privacy promise. They don't want to know anything about your files, and they're interested in you keeping them private. So you might want to check them out if you want to share files and you have some sensitivity about whether the company you're storing them with are going to look at them. SpiderOak.com. You can send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. All right, Ek, you ready for our message of the day?
Absolutely.
This one comes from Brendan, who has thoughts about Apple Pay.
Hey, Tom, Jenny, and guest. At the end of show 2325, you brought up Apple Pay and where it could be accepted. I've been thinking about this as I run a small business. I currently use Square and would love to accept Apple Pay from my clients. I've wondered if Square would release a new dongle with NFC built in, but maybe they could just update their app and use the chip inside the iDevice. Apple hasn't announced an API for third-party use of NFC, so maybe Apple will build their own point-of-sale app. I'm just being silly at this point and should wait for official announcements. This is Brendan from Portland, and thank you for the show.
Thanks, Brendan. That is some wishful thinking, right? The idea that Apple not only would open up NFC, which they might, but then let competing payment systems use it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're definitely going to build an app of their own, of course, and this is all going to be controlled by them completely.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm not as excited about NFC in an iPhone as I might be, is I'm uncertain what they're going to allow people to do with it. If they said, yeah, we're going to open it up to developers the way that we've opened up Touch ID, and yeah, PayPal can use it, Square can use it, all of these competing payment systems can use it if they want, that would be great. Apple doing Apple Pay makes me feel less like that's what's going to happen. It feels like Apple, when they do a service like this, they want to control it, and they put in their terms, you can't put competitive apps in the store to apps that they already have. So I just don't see it.
It reminds me a little bit of the first iPhone where there were no apps, and people kind of forget that there were no apps, and they sort of wanted to control the whole thing, and yet eventually they realized that, hey, you know what? If we let people write their own apps, I think NFC could be that way down the line. They might realize it might be better for them, but right now they're not going to do that.
All right, let's finish up with some Len Peralta art. Len, what have you been drawing?
Well, I'm so glad that Ek talked a little bit about what will happen in the future when people will they stand in line for the iPhone. I personally have never stood in line for an iPhone, but I have a lot of respect for people who do. So this is my take on it. I think, given the size of these iPhones, I think civilization will grow and evolve to meet the size of the next-gen iPhones. And what I have here on this cartoon is it says, status will be determined not by wealth, but by the giants who crush others who dare to stand in line. So
you're saying if I get the 6 instead of the 6 Plus, I'm limiting my growth opportunity personally.
Correct. You will not evolve in the future. So years from now, we will just have a race of large people who are going to buy the bigger and bigger iPad, or iPhone, I should say.
It's like a goldfish theory.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Apple stores will become huge, and I'll get lost in them unless I buy the 6 Plus.
It could happen.
I've made a horrible mistake, Len.
Imagine haptic feedback on a phone that size.
Man.
So this print is available in my online store, and I also want to remind people that I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Len, and it's if you like what I'm drawing here, you can watch me speed draw stuff, and help me help support that little habit, the speed habit.
Yeah, the speed drawings are great. I'm really glad you're doing those.
Thank you.
Patreon.com/Len, and to buy that print, or at least just get a look at it, LenPeraltaStore.com. HockeyBuzz.com is where you can find Eck most of the time, and you're in the off season, but there's still news kicking around. I see you posting some rumors this morning.
Oh yeah, no, camps opened up this week. Yesterday and today, camps have opened up, and Blues are trying to sign Jaden Schwartz to a contract, and yeah, there's a lot of things happening out there, so it's fun. I get to go to my first preseason game on Monday, and that's always fun to get out of the, there's nothing like at the end of a long hot summer going into a cold rink and realizing your fall has returned, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, huh? HockeyBuzz.com, and of course, follow you on Twitter at twitter.com/HockeyBuzz, right?
No, Eklund.
Oh, you're at I always want to put those the other way. Twitter.com/Eklund. It's EKLUND.
Correct.
Thanks, man. Good to have you on.
That's great to be here. I really appreciate it. And one thing I wanted to say about your calendar, people should go to the Maker Faire in New York. I've gone the last 3 years to that Queens Maker Faire, and it's awesome.
Excellent. Check it out if you're able to do so. You can say X sent me. I don't know if it'll get you anything, but you could say it. Thanks to 4,284 patrons of this show that make it possible. You guys are why we are able to do what we do. We try to put as valuable a show out as we can every time. And if you see some value in it and you're able to give back, we really, really appreciate it. Patreon.com/AceDetect is one way to do it. There's also PayPal. There's also Bitcoin. There's even Dogecoin. You can find all the ways to support the show at dailytechnewsshow.com/donate. Don't forget, you can have a voice in what stories we cover. That's one way to support the show if you've got no other way to do it. Just go to subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and do some voting. Email us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. And listen to the show live, mobile.alphageekradio.com. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back Monday with Rob Krekel as our guest. See you then.
About this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Yay!
It's a great picture, Len. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's so good. You top yourself every week. It's amazing.
I love the people holding the big phones in the background.
Giant Apple fan.
I just was thinking about it today. That's why I was asking you about the size. I wanted to see what the actual size of that was because it just seems really large. And I made fun of people that I saw would get the Galaxy, and now I'm like, oh man, if I want to upgrade, I'm gonna go to the I gotta go to that size. So I don't know how I feel about it.
The cloud work is particularly beautiful on that. I mean, it's all an amazing thing, but like the way that the apocalyptic clouds in the background are up, just really spectacular.
Thank you. That's just a brush.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a fun. I use that brush all the time. It's a quick and get stuff done. So cool.
That's amazing.
Great show, you guys.
Yeah,
that was fun.
It was great fun to come on for this. I appreciate you having me on today. This is a fun day to be on.
No, thanks for
good.
having an iPhone.
No, absolutely. Anytime. No, it was. I do like it. I'm going to be interesting to see. I'm going to try to take some video tonight of symphonic Pokemon and see what comes out.
Yeah. If you don't follow Eck for any other reason, follow him for symphonic Pokemon.
I know.
Videos.
Apparently, I talked to somebody who runs the theater. Apparently, what they're doing is they're putting DS videos of like the old DS games and the Game Boy games on the screen, and because they had the epic music of Pokemon, and then my son plays them all the time, so we hear these songs all the time. And then with the Philadelphia Orchestra, it's like, the kids have never seen the orchestra before, so this is going to be kind of a neat way for them to do that.
It's a great way to kind of hook the kids in.
Yeah.
And then some kids won't care, but other kids will discover symphonic music and be like, ooh, I really like that, where they would never have bothered to try it before.
Yeah, most kids have no idea what these actual instruments look like. Yeah. Right. I mean, what's a violin? It's MIDI'd usually from this keyboard to that keyboard. I know.
Hey, would you like some titles?
Love some titles.
Lots of jokes about sizes.
Oh, boy.
All right, so we'll start with Netflix Unwind.
Nice.
That's What She Said.
Yes, of course.
I saw that one coming.
Goldilocks and the 3 iPhones, which is
That's
really
cute.
I quite like, and we'll be submitting a vote for it. Insert size joke here. And one I also really like is, I already voted for it. If iPhone could turn back time.
Well done, BioCow.
Yeah. And let's see if there are any other ones I really... Mic drop Perth style, which was nice.
Nice.
Alibaba and the Day Trade Thieves.
Somebody said that today. Someone in the line said, "Is this the line for Zeppelin tickets?" I thought that was hilarious.
I think those are my favorites. I do like Alibaba and the Day Trade Thieves, but that might be a little over the editorial line. But I may just be speaking as someone who...
If Alibaba was our main story and it kind of fit the tone of the conversation, I'd be for that. But yeah, it's almost 2 steps beyond, since we didn't really talk about it that much.
So I'm between Goldilocks and the 3 iPhones and if iPhone could turn back time, because I think we were talking a lot about like trying to recapture the magic of standing in line and feeling like something special is here and da-da.
Yeah.
So I leave it to you, Tubber.
Goldilocks and the 3 iPhones it is.
There you go. This runs too strong. Len, man, that stuff is great.
Thank you.
Still, I'm like thinking about that cloud work. Someone in the chat room, who was it? It was Curtis B, said it was the upgraded iCloud of the future.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It's very cool.
Yeah. iCloud, eh?
Hi, Cloud, eh?
Apocalyptic iCloud right here.
Send in the clouds.
So, Ek, where's my story, man?
I know. I always get so nervous to see you. Don't pressure. I know. I will.
Season's going to start up, and then you're going to be busy, and then you have to get this done.
Actually, the funny thing is, I'm less busy. The off season with me, because I'm writing about player transactions and rumors and things like that. Actually, once they start playing, no one makes any trades in the first month or 2 of the season. That's actually the time I can do something. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
All right, I'm really looking forward to it.
I appreciate your support on that.
I know a good story when I hear one.
I told my wife that you were into that, and she was like, "Oh yeah." So she pounds me on it as well. So.
Yep. It falls into that perfect, like, Grantland-esque territory of stories nobody else would ever know otherwise, and you are the sole bearer of it, as far as I'm concerned, and have a duty to the people to bring that story to light.
I am very, very into that idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out there again for the San Jose Sharks are having an outdoor game at the new stadium against the Kings. So I'll be out there. For that. I think
that's in LA.
It's way up north though.
Oh, it's up in San Jose.
But I'll be back there because the Kings will probably win the Stanley. The Kings are pretty darn good. So.
I vaguely know things about hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I am gonna bounce.
Spaghetti.
Right.
Spaghetti night.
It's back to spaghetti finally.
Back to
Thank
spaghetti.
goodness. Back to normality.
Back to
Well
normality
played.
is right. But it was good seeing it.
Out.
See you later.
All right, thanks, Len.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ek, what's for dinner tonight?
For us, it's going to be corn fritters on the way to the So,
Oh, yay.
that's what I'm understanding, at least. My daughter's taking cooking, so she learned how to make corn fritters. So,
Neat.
corn fritters can be good. We'll see. We'll
But
see how it goes.
what do they sell at the Pokemon?
I have no
Simply
idea. That's what I'm really kind of excited about. I want a
glass
Bulbasaur.
of
Is what I
Merlot
want.
and a
I don't know. I don't.
dried cheese.
Yeah, when I come home with a real
Fried
Bulbasaur.
cheese.
My son bawled his
Pokemon-shaped
eyes out
fried cheese.
last year when we told him that Pokemon weren't real, and he just he thought.
Whoa,
he
whoa,
was-
whoa, whoa! What?
I know. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
No one told me this.
No, because there are if you search for real Pokemon on Google, there are people who have made who have photoshopped these together to look. So he was convinced that those were real, and he said, no, these Pokemon are definitely real, and he was really upset about it. And I said,
Oh,
okay,
man.
they're real to you. I mean, if you believe it, that's all that matters. They're real. And he
So-
didn't like that very much. He's like,
If there are bronies, does that mean there are also Pokemonies? Like,
there definitely are.
do people like commit to the full level of the Pokemon the way they do?
Oh
sort
yeah.
of ironically,
Oh,
about
yes.
My Little Pony.
Yes. And he watches the Twitch videos of Pokemon, Minecraft. Like the Pokemon mod of Minecraft is phenomenal.
Hot in
And
your house.
he watches them all the time, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, the guy's like, you guys they're throwing out some, these aren't done by 9-year-old boys, so so I have to pull them away sometimes. I'm like, okay.
Tom, are you playing Pokemon music in the background?
I was looking for real Pokemon, and I found a YouTube video, but it wasn't that good.
Oh, yeah,
Also,
no.
before the YouTube video, I got an advertisement for a Louisiana congressional race, so I think my IP address may be messed up.
Yeah. That's No, he's very. Oh my gosh, he's really. He wanted to, his dream. He said when he was 7 was to build a zoo to house actual Pokemon, and that's what he wanted to have. So he always wanted to be a zookeeper. So that's why when he actually started telling him, because we had to tell him his friends were going to start to say, you don't want to crush him. But it was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I love
So,
you love to see the passion, and
Eck Jr., some
Yeah.
people believe that Pokemon are not real. But we want you to believe whatever you want.
that's right. You can believe whatever you want, and
No, you say some people believe Pokemon are not real, and the evidence shows they're right. So you need to explore the evidence. If
That's-
you want to prove they're real, you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta show me some evidence.
Yep.
See,
Show
Tom,
me
you're-
the Pokemon-y.
That's like my PhD wife there, Tom, and that's the whole thing. That's exactly how that's exactly what she would say. She would be like, "Oh, nope, nah, nope."
Hey, I'm willing to believe they're real if you show me some evidence of it.
She said they're either real or they're not real, and that's
That's funny.
one or the other. Yeah, so it's funny. It's a funny world. But Pokemon, it's still going strong. It's unbelievable. I mean, it really has not lost any momentum at all.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy because I remember thinking of it as this thing my brother was maybe sort of into, right? And
Yeah.
My younger brother, and I was like, yeah, and it did kind of decline. I was like, oh yeah, I guess the Pokemon thing, but no, man, nostalgia is a powerful force, and even that nostalgia keeping it going has introduced it to a younger generation,
Oh, yeah.
and just it.
And there are new regions and new Pokemon every year.
Yeah.
They're still going. They're not, they're not stopping. They're not slowing down. They, every animal has its Pokemon.
Is there
and-
anything from our generation that is still? I think
Well, with
it's
the
all
exception of things like the Justice League, like
Oh, I guess so. Superheroes. Yeah. No, you're
the
right.
superheroes are definitely
point.
but they weren't cool for a very long time there, right? So
Yeah.
then they're suddenly cool again, and
I
he's
think
into that too.
He-Man and Voltron are poised for comebacks.
Mm.
That's my theory. The whole
You know what I'm waiting for?
Saturday morning cartoon lineup is poised for a reboot.
This is what I think needs a reboot. Sitcoms like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley,
I know.
and just new versions of those.
Here's I won't even. You know what? I'm not even going to get into how I feel about the slow death of the half-hour comedy because it's very personal in this family. But
Right.
I agree with you 100%. But I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that and merely say that the thing I would like to have rebooted is either Voyagers or Quantum Leap. Those are my two.
Oh, I forgot about Voyagers. I used to love
Oh
that
yeah,
show.
I used to love that show. That was my first exposure to time travel for sure.
Ultraman has to return. Ultraman, like with all the things that have returned, Ultraman for me when I was a kid, that was like right in there with Speed Racer, right? Ultraman and Speed Racer, they were in the same era for me.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Well, they're still like there's a whole like Laugh Olympics thing that they still do. Hong Kong Phooey's part of that. They're still part of that. But yeah, Ultraman was so amazing as a kid. But now you watch it on YouTube, and oh my gosh, it's so funny how cheesy it is. It's just literally we could all make an Ultraman episode in an afternoon. Like this.
Apparently, every once in a while I come across this artifact, which was like a list my mom made for the babysitter about like what Jenny can and can't do. But on my approved, like I must have been 4, on my approved list of TV was Thundar the Barbarian, and I was like,
nice.
Yeah, way to go, 4-year-old Jenny. Like apparently that was the show I really wanted to watch.
I was not allowed to watch Three's Company, and but I was allowed. I remember my mom leaving something for babysitter. He can watch Animal House, but not Three's Company. I know,
but not Three's Company.
Right, Animal House over Three's Company. And years later got my mom on that. I'm like, really, were you paying attention to that? The Three's Company was just too much innuendo. It was
right.
Everything was innuendo.
I was allowed to watch Three's Company, but not Soap. Soap was the one they were like.
Soap was that was another level too. That's right. Well, Soap had like all kinds of alternative lifestyle.
Yeah.
Everybody else. Yeah, that was that. I agree. I remember Soap.
Elkund points out they are remaking Greatest American Hero, which my husband's been wanting to like get involved in that for years. Like, oh my God, that was a huge day in our house.
Well, look at what's happened to them.
Yeah.
I can't believe it myself.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
Yeah, I'm on top of the world.
Could have been somebody else.
We watched a whole bunch of cheesy 80s movies on vacation, and that was like the greatest thing ever. I mean, that was just like, we went through the whole like, John Cusack, like, 16 Candles to Say Anything to Some Kind of Wonderful to like everything imaginable. And you realize how horrible they were as far as the morals, that the moral, they would never wrap themselves up in a neat ball. They would always end, the way 16 Candles ends is warped. Like there's warped endings to these things that just sort of, where the actual, like, the bully, whatever, would sort of win, kind of. And you're like, whoa, wait, what happened there? It's just like...
Well, the eternal debate about Pretty in Pink is that there's no right moral universe in which Andrew McCarthy was a sensible choice over Ducky. But
exactly.
That's a fierce debate amongst ladies of my generation.
And then we're sitting there saying, what has Ducky done since then? It blew our minds that he's the guy from that show.
3.5 Men.
Yeah, like we had never put that together.
But we come to our senses and we marry the Ducky. That's the theory.
Ducky was cool.
Yeah, Ducky was awesome.
But why would he? But this is my thing. Why would he want to be with her? She was just like
pouty and yelly and cryy and all those things.
Oh yeah. She was just anyone who doesn't want you that badly, at some point you're like, whoa.
The lesson
Ducky seemed like he was cool enough to not buy into that,
The lesson in our family is they'll come around in 10 years. That's the actual lesson of our family here. Anyway.
All right, I'm out of the post. Sadly.
Oh, there we go. I'm Joe. Bye, Ak. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye, everybody.